The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. Still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, the group would just jump in and help out. It was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
We are the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, HVERI for short. A lot of people know us from the 2018 eruption of Kīlauea in the Lower East Rift Zone. Working under Hawaii Tracker on the Facebook group. Since then, we've been trying to carry on and take the lessons, the hard lessons that were learned during that eruption and try and prepare for the next major disaster that comes to our island.
Yeah, and so we do that through two different programs. One is volcano education, and the other part is digital resilience, which we address through online groups on social media. So the way the two programs work together is that the social media networks end up being a distribution pathway for all the information. And having that network in place means we can provide more than just volcano education, but any other preparedness information as well.
What we were working for really came about in the Mauna Loa eruption in 2022. Within hours of that eruption starting, we had the mayor, Mitch Roth, we had USGS HVO Ken Hahn on the stream trying to help flush out a little bit of the ongoing because it's so new. It's completely different from our previous major eruption, which was 2018.
One of the things that Talmadge and I were talking about was how do we deal with social media? And it was something we needed to figure out and get right. Our job is to get information to the public and make sure that the public get it as well as possible and as correctly as possible. When Philip and Dan started coming to and live streaming the meetings, it was great because we were reaching more people than we normally would. So when the eruption actually happened, we had this relationship. The interviews we did during the eruption, the most fun ones were the ones with Philip and Dave because they were more relaxed and we knew we were getting to the local community and people were asking questions. So those were the best, I think. I just want to really give a shout out to those guys and how we worked as a team on this eruption. It really worked out well and we got to a lot of people we wouldn't have normally gotten.
All right. Aloha, everyone. Welcome to this week's Hawaiian Volcano Update from myself, Dane DuPont, and Lou Torrey. We are from the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, and we are joined, of course, by Dano up there, our ASL interpreter. Appreciate them for joining us. And you might notice I am not Phil. Phil is not here today, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. So in the meantime, you're going to have to put up with Lou and myself. Welcome, Lou. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We're 7 days, 20 hours and 58 minutes since the last episode.
Right.
What do you
Just
think,
over a
man?
week. Yeah, this is now the waiting room for the next episode on Kīlauea, episode
Right.
26. We have had 25 so far, starting December 2020 or December 23rd. And yeah, today we have going to go through some of the data and look at what the volcano is doing, but also some of the info from the past episodes. And then we have a little bit of a special today. First being additional coverage of the Pohiki project, the dredge of the boat ramp area. But the real one we have is a recap of episodes 1 through 13 so far. So we're going to go through those and look at some of the information and, see how they've built up over time. This is going to be a two-parter. Second part of that will be coming in next week. I think we'll be doing the second part. So probably would be, in all expectations, episodes 14 through 26.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, right.
So right now, yeah. Let's go ahead and get into our summary, if that's good. And if you got any questions, go ahead and drop them into the chat, and we will try and get to them in the Q&A. All right.
Oh, hey, and today's summary is, you're going to let me roll with the summary tonight, Dane? Are you sure you want to do that?
All right. I think we were in order then. All right. This is your Hawaiian volcano summary for June 19th, 2025. We are patiently awaiting the next episode 26 on Kīlauea. The activity so far, we're looking right now at the live view provided by the USGS. Not a whole lot of action at the surface, but we do see the inflation coming up from underground. Look at the map real quick of the extent of the lava so far. We do see that the elevation is now 3,133 feet, slowly picking up every single episode. And where these vents are, as well as the downwind tephra deposit, which we'll be taking more of a look at. Looking at the last week of activity, there hasn't been a whole lot. We did have some spatter coming out of the vent. You could only see it really at night. And then we had a little bit of a pause in the inflation, and this provided us more time. So we can see that drop in the inflation right here, right as the 17th, so 2 days ago. And took a little bit of a while to recover, but has been recovering as a bounce back, and is near that point where we would expect it to go, but maybe not quite there yet. Especially when we consider the activity at the surface, that precursor activity that we haven't really seen yet. Looking down the rift zone, this is a tilt meter at Pu'uo'o. We do not see the signals being carried through that we do see at the summit, indicating that, yes, this is still all confined to the summit area. Taking a glance at earthquakes over the past week, there really hasn't been much to speak of, mostly our usual suspects, with one additional one in the middle of the southwest rift zone here. But we have cluster down in Pahala, deep Pahala region, depth of 20 miles. Typical Pahala activity, we have some south flank earthquakes with a depth of anywhere between 3 and 6 miles deep. And then we have some scattering of earthquakes across Mauna Loa. Looking at the air quality, we do have emissions still coming out of the volcano, even during the pause periods. During the pause, we're looking at roughly 1,200 tons of SO2 per day, which is going to be greatly exceeded once an episode starts, up to points of tens of thousands of tons per day or even more. But right now, we're taking a look at the purple air monitoring. We can see green across the board. Little bit reprieve in the air quality with this at more than 1 week pause. And we do have some normal trade winds at most of the time, but we do see a little bit of the trade winds diminishing and the SO2 being able to wrap in. But for the most part, using the V map here, looking into our forecast for VOG, it's maybe the saddle gets it, but Ka'u and the normal areas that would be impacted by the VOG, being Hawaiian Ocean View Estates, all of Ka'u, downwind of the normal trade winds. And we, in addition to the VOG, we also, during these fountaining periods, experience a lot of tephra and other types of fallout, like Pele's hair, that gets caught up in the wind and can fly with the wind a considerable distance. If you were to be at the park and the winds change and start blowing from the south to the north, that would then be falling on you. So just be aware when you're up there, especially during one of these fountains, of where you position yourself relative to the direction of the wind. Taking a look up at Mauna Loa, really not a lot to talk about up here. Mauna Loa has continued its slow and gradual reinflation following the 2022 eruption. Just looking at some of the day-night cycles at Moku'uweo'eweo caldera. The data, as we see here, maybe a slight uptick in the inflation, but we are dealing with the pretty small scale. And we do see that the GPS has been brought back online, and USGS has more information about that. So we'll talk about the GPS a little more, but we really don't have enough data points here to say much about it other than it's slowly reinflating. And that will do it for our Hawaiian volcano summary for this week. And moving on to some observations here. So we are looking at the S2 camera. We did check out the V3 in the beginning. We could see the hill moving following the into the last episode. Here we just can see mostly the glow at night. And one of the things that we were talking about before the stream is, where's the precursor activity that we've come accustomed to? The spatter, the gas pistoning, the drain back, all of these things that we've somewhat grown accustomed to, we haven't really seen yet in this build up to this episode. We did start it, but then with that dip, it kind of backed off. And that's one of the main things that makes me think that maybe we were a little further away from this eruption starting than maybe, like during this episode. USGS posted some photos out at looking out at all of this tephra deposit that's been accumulating on the southwestern part of the caldera, going out into the Ka'u Desert. And each episode ends up creating a new layer of this fresh tephra and is accumulating so much that it is now essentially creating some hills in there, Lou.
Yeah, it's got its own topography now, doesn't it, up top, compared to what we've seen just 6 months ago.
Right. And part of that, what USGS does is they go out into the field and they want to collect samples. So one of the easiest way to collect samples is go collect, just go put out some buckets. And when these fountains are going off, all that tephra is flying down with the wind. It'll land in these buckets, and you clean out the buckets after each run. And now you have fresh samples of each individual run but some of that stuff is still kind of hot, and we see the hole that it was able to punch through. And the thing that gets me about this is like, yeah, it burnt a hole through it, but it also broke the bucket.
Right. Impact and melted it. So I would bet that somehow it impacted it and drove it into the ground and then melted it on the ground. But still, that's just shows that some of that material is hot. And when the winds do shift, right, we have seen the National Park Service close certain sections of the park where that would be directly downwind from this fallout. And it's not, these buckets haven't been hit before, they've been used before, but it just shows you like that one-off piece, how far it can sometimes go. This is an upgrade from the last casualty that was up there. That was a milk jug, if I remember right.
If we ignore all the cameras they've lost.
Besides for the cameras
that have been melted or hit by things and taken out of commission.
Yep.
So the photo of a partially melted bucket with an embedded tephra clast erupted during episode 25 of the ongoing eruption at Kīlauea. Buckets are used to collect tephra and in between episodes to ensure the samples from each episode are isolated to track geochemical changes and determine the amount of tephra that fell at each time. That's the interesting thing, is trying to use it as a, put out a bunch of buckets as a way to try and determine how much tephra is falling between each episode. So anyways,
it doesn't have
ongoing
rocket science, right? I mean,
I think your mic went quiet there.
I said it doesn't have to be rocket science, right?
There you go.
Just put out a container and see if it fills up.
Right. Did it fill up more than last time? Weigh it, type of thing. How many pieces? So looking at, we're going to be doing, the theme of today is looking at the changes of the episodes going across from early December or mid-December till now. And we just this before and after photo, just before the eruptions began, and now that hill that has developed on the backside of the fissures and the eruptive vents, it's not surprising when we look at it with this type of perspective that we are getting pieces of fallout hitting that pile of loose debris, and then eventually falling out of it back down into the caldera itself and creating those visuals that we've seen over the past couple episodes.
Yeah.
And also you can see that the new viewing area there is open, right? That view where the Jagger Museum once was is open and is a very unique view in this whole thing. And there's so many good views that really you're just looking for, what's different and what's unique. And there's several spots that you can give you a very wide perspective, all within the legal area. People are allowed to or encouraged to visit. We do always say that if you're up there, before the episode starts, that's great. You're in the perfect position. But if you aren't and you rush up there, if it's normal peak, like say it happened right now, it's 5 p.m., 5:20 p.m., Hawaii Standard Time, basically rush hour already. And the amount of people that would be trying to go into the park would shut down the highway effectively. It would be overwhelmed. But at 2:00 in the morning, if it were to do it, it's going to be a lot easier to get up there.
One question, Dane, everybody always asks when we're up there is, can you hear it? Can you feel it? And this is the spot. If there was ever a moment for you to hear it, it's going to be right there at the easiest lookout there is in the entire park, honestly, with easy parking, easy access to walk out there. If
wheelchair accessible.
Exactly. One. Yep. There are bathrooms up there. I mean, it's a great
plenty
spot.
Of parking too. That's the thing about volcano houses. Yeah, it's great, but with the parking lot partially impacted from all the construction and the limited amount of parking,
it's rough to get a view in there. But the spot's always open, and it's so close that you can feel the heat, I'm told, from it, from the fountain, which is about as close as you want to get, really.
Yeah. And
so it's pretty cool that's open.
I still think that this lookout is kind of a hidden gem, because everybody is always going over to Keonekekoi or to Waldron's Volcano House, and they're not going up there. They want the big full view. So I think it's still kind of a hidden gem. If you run into a parking issue, I'd go up there and hang out for a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and it's so accessible, and it's interesting. I do want to just go up there just to see what it's like without the museum there in person, since it's all been restored to its state, or it's still in the process, but mostly there. All right, so moving on. Did want to just take a look at some of the monitoring data for Kīlauea. We can see some of the smaller earthquakes that didn't show up in the main catalog that USGS provides, the live updating map, and really a lot of just small stuff in the south flank, as well as deep Pahala activity. And we can see earthquake counts got down in between episodes to only 5 a day. You really not seeing that much earthquake activity with each episode. It's more, if you're talking about earthquakes, the tremor that you're looking for, if anything, at this point. And steady inflation at the summit. I did want to, though, I was hoping this was the next slide.
Here we go.
Because we're talking about areas that's closed and even areas that's open. Like, there are plenty of areas that you can get too close and something happened. And something happened. A visitor fell 30 feet near Byron's Ledge, and they sustained facial fractures, required search and rescue to go pull him out. And you can see, does not look like a fun experience. I would not recommend falling into the crater. He's not the first to fall in, and I guarantee will not be the last. But thankfully, these episodes of people going into it don't happen super commonly. But outside of, the areas that are open, which stuff can happen, Byron's Ledge is an accessible area. There's additional hazards in terms of cracks, in terms of unstable lava rock, like Shelly Pohoi or whatever that may be out there. So really do recommend just staying in there, because there is such great views that you don't. There are times where you think like, oh, there's no view, but we can sneak in and get a view. This doesn't require that. No, it's a lava stadium. There's plenty of open seats.
Yeah, and there's no handrails or guardrails out there and around the park. There are from the summit of Waikahuna down to Volcano House, but out where he was at and throughout the majority of the park, there's no stop here rail.
And I have stepping into cracks myself up there at night when you're off the trail and you're near like the ledge and you're just kind of oh, there's a crack there. And I find out, when I'm knee deep in it.
Yep.
Right. So it's not hard to see how just a little too close, and you can be right down in that thing too. Transitioning up to Mauna Loa, this is part of those GPS stations coming back online. But the 2025 annual GPS measuring campaign is in progress from USGS, and they have mounted these tripods over the benchmark sites and to provide those fine-tuning adjustments so they know how much certain things have changed since the last survey. It keeps them so they're more precise in their measurements and what they're able to extrapolate out of those. And here's the Mauna Loa cabin for you, Lou. I know you walked up there before.
Yeah, stayed the night in that one. 7 days up on that hill. Those guys got to fly up in the helicopter. Isn't that a nice treat? We hiked it.
Yeah, imagine hiking it with all that equipment.
Yeah, right.
On top.
And I don't think the from Red Hills Summit to the summit cabin there is open yet. I think it's still all closed. That they fought winds and weather for the last 16 months to really even be able to open everything back up there. So this is nice to see that they're making progress with just this. That means they may have the trail opened up someday again between the two cabins.
Right. So showing some of the different perspectives, and Mauna Loa is really hard to pick up where you are precisely on it. It all looks kind of the same, but the references, looking up at Mauna Kea there, so you can see we're on that side of the saddle, but not directly facing it. One other deployment zone, we can see Huala lie there. So on the Kona side of the caldera. Lower southwest flank, right? So you can see all the vegetation. Lets you know that you're not up near the top. And you can see the helicopter that brought them here, as well as this one. Where is this one? Doesn't really say where this one is. Anyways, so yeah, they're conducting their GPS campaign, which is nice because the GPS has been kind of down on Mauna Loa. And one stone while you're up there, might as well get everything operational again. And
yeah, it looks like they were busy.
Yeah. And that brings us to Volcano Watch for the day. Hope I should have changed that already, but oh well. So Volcano Watch, looking at the new interns that are coming in right here. So Kamalani and Ruth joining HVO this summer, and through one of them's through the Pipes Project, which is we've worked with some of the Pipes Project as well, or people that work with Pipes Project. We have some projects with them coming up, but it's really good to see the next generation of volcanologists putting in work up at HVO to get the experience. And I know Phil, missing today, but he was once up there as well, volunteering and running around doing the work that needs to get done in order to keep, all the wheels turning. And we know USGS HVO does have a good amount of people on staff, but there's so much work to be done, especially with this episodic activity where every week you have a new little bit to go over. And yeah, Kama is returning, so done this before up at HVO. So awesome to see them coming in and putting in the work. And we can see there one of the early activities, I believe, picture behind from Volcano House. So pretty cool there. And this did come out a little early. It came out yesterday, but we do have it posted on HVERI.org if you are so inclined to go read the whole entire article. And that gets us to the Pohiki stuff.
Yeah, right.
So do we want to just go ahead and show this to start it off, and then we'll take a look?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's warm them up with this right here.
All right. So we have gotten this, one of the projects we have been working on is getting a webcam installed or a camera installed to do time lapses of the dredge at Pohiki, which started last week on the 9th and has been healthily progressing since then. So let's go ahead and start this off. You can see how it is, and then the equipment start to come in, and you'll see the progression. This is the first week of work down there, and you're going to be doing keeping this camera going to watch how this project develops, as well as the aftermath and how everything shapes out out there down at Pohiki. So yeah, go ahead.
Dane, you see where the excavator kind of stopped and where they're at right there? That is just above the high tide water table.
Right.
I know you and we've stared and watched these cameras for the last couple weeks with everything and the time lapses, but that's the first time I really kind of looked. That's exactly where they pulled back and where they're going to, I guess, pull out from, right? Right there.
Yep.
Ooh.
And then they're just going to work their way backwards, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think we can work from the ocean in.
Right.
It'd
be pretty rough. So one thing we have been reached out to communicate about is that this pond here where the boat ramp is now closed to swimming until the project is done, and especially when there's equipment operating out there. Like there's barriers in place, there's fences in place to try and keep people away, but we know that you can, find ways around that if you tried. It's not advisable to be in the water when the equipment's out there, at least. And there's the other ponds, right? There's other ponds there at Pohiki that are unimpacted by this project. So if you want somewhere to go, try to check out some of those. But yeah, that's what we've been asked to communicate there. Is we have seen images of people swimming while there's equipment operating right next to them, and things can go wrong, and you don't want it to, but it can, and probably don't want to be in that area.
Well, and we don't know when they get done working if something might have happened. Maybe a bucket came off of an excavator and they just couldn't retrieve it because of a tide coming in, and they have to wait till tomorrow. We don't know. It's just safe to not be in that. It's safer to not be in that water right now.
Right. And there are other places too, like down there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So why don't you take us over your drone footage?
Oh, let's do that. All right. So I went back down there this weekend while Dane is making sure that the camera on the house is functioning so we can get these time lapses. I'm down there, and I went down, and let me stop this right there. That is our road to Kapoho. That if I back it up just a little bit here,
the red road, Highway 137.
Yep. That right there is over here is where it's going to connect on the left-hand side. So let's keep it rolling here. So that is really great to see. And this area here is what they did the first day or two out there. This is up from the beach. This is where they're bringing all of the material from the beach.
Right.
I'll fly back over there in a second. Just giving a little. I did check over there for those that have been asking me. I have not seen a beach hidden over there yet. And this is as of Saturday. So there's the pile of material that they're stockpiling right there.
And don't know what the material is going to be used for yet. I do think some of it's going to be used because there is a second project that's happening in parallel. This project is state run. The dredging is state run, whereas the county initiation is redoing the park. And we've seen the plans for that, and it includes things like making hills. And well, we know where the material is to do that.
Right. They're going to have plenty of it, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And there's another shot of the road that's coming in. No idea when they're going to make that final connection. The area of that road where it actually connects right there from Four Corners all the way down, it isn't completed yet. So they're holding off on that last part, I think, maybe to prevent people from driving down there yet. So there's our Pohiki update. Hopefully we can keep these up as weeks go by and watch the development. It's going to be a fun couple months.
Definitely. All right, so we can go ahead and dive into Community Corner.
Yeah, Dane, you're in the dark there. Did you lose power?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get something up. Trying to get something going.
All right, let's see here. Oh, not that one. Wrong one. Too early for credits. Here we go. I'll let Dan. Oh, goody. I get Dano. Come on in, Dano. Have a seat. Here we go. All right. What's happening around the neighborhood today? Let's see. You guys got this on the cam. Make sure everything's working. I think we're good. All right, let's roll. As we know, there's going to be construction and closures from Pele's Hair and Vogue and Tefra. Look out for any type of barricades and cones. Don't roll over the cones and don't open things that are closed. never enter a closed, restricted area. And since we brought up Byron's Ledge incident, we will remind you that on the front page of the website, of the park's website, it says safety is your responsibility. So please be careful up there. It's no joke. As well as the yellow jackets. All right, there is our view. I'm telling you, sitting on that wall. Maybe Dane and I will be able to get up there one of these times and catch that, get our own shot. What do you think, Dane?
Yeah.
Yep, there's the Kahuna observation deck stuff right there. It was closed since 2018, is now safe for visitors. Be sure to stay behind the stone walls and cable barriers to avoid unstable cliff edges. There is the new roundabout that they are building. As you come into the park, this is going to have a week-to-week, and some days will be day-to-day change as you're going in the park. Just know that from the main entrance of the park all the way to where the Kīlauea Visitor Center was, because it's now gone, all of that is going to be under constant construction for the next year and a half-ish, give or take. And there's also going to be a bypass out of the park sometimes when you come out. Roundabout should help with traffic flow and safety. There is the new temporary Kīlauea military camp. It's our welcome center. You can't miss it if you just drive straight up through the park. You look to your right and eventually see a giant flagpole, and there it is. Parking is back there. Just past it, follow the P sign for parking, and it's behind the new HVO building that they're working on up there too. Lots of building going on in the park. There's just a quick shot of what's going on. Everything is in yellow. Nothing really closed that I found that you need to worry about. Know that we are in hurricane season and high winds will come up. So if you're going up to Mauna Loa Road, up that way to view from there, looking down towards Kīlauea, know that trees do come down, and make sure you pack what you need in case you have a few hours. This is thank you to Yvonne for sending me this. Some new programs going on in the park. Life on the Edge, we know, has been going on. It's on several times a day, 10, 11, 1, and 2. Explore the Summit is also going on up there. That's around the entire summit area, obviously. And then above and below is Kīlauea Iki. So there is some information, 10:30 for Explore the Summit programs with a short ranger guided walk focusing on geology, ecology, and Hawaiian culture. Should be the Kīlauea Welcome Center. And all of these, if you're interested, like this one here, the Kīlauea Iki crater, if you're interested in it, just don't go show up over at the parking area at 11:30. I recommend going into the Welcome Center and make sure they're having it. All of these programs are based on weather. Did I say weather? On if the weather is appropriate, if they have the staffing, just check into the Welcome Center. And one more new program they have, well, this is the original one, the Life on the Edge. And that's going on several times a day. So in between these episodes, since we are at just about 8 days since the last one, you have some extra time. I see some of you in the chat here are already up there waiting. Tomorrow, if you have some time, check out one of the programs. There is a community resilience fair going on. This is a free family event. Will feature an open house community meeting about wildfire safety and preparedness. Representatives from county agencies, businesses, and organizations will share information and resources to help residents prepare for emergencies and keep their homes and community safe. This is going on in Waikoloa. I have contact information right there. This is on Thursday, June 26th. At the Waikoloa Elementary and Middle School cafeteria. If you are anywhere up in that part of the island, I recommend going and checking this out because that is our fire danger area up there, and they will have the most current information and resources that you'll need. And if you are interested in being notified,
wait, before you get into that one, there are a couple other things I did find out about. We have the July 12th prep fair happening in Pahoa, right? And that is a revitalized Puna combination with the civil defense prep fair that we've been helping plan. Just got the date today for the Kona prep fair, which is going to be happening on September 20th.
Nice.
And that is fresh out of the, fresh off the press type of
hot off the press.
we just got that date figured out today. So
Right on.
we will be hopefully locking that in. And yeah, September 20th in Kona, July 12th in Pahoa at the Bilikanoi Park there, the Pahoa Park.
Yep. If you have kids, bring them. It's great for kids. All of the vendors there, all of the organizers always have things for the kids. There's food there. There's a lot
going to be a bounce house.
There'll be there we go.
There's a bounce house with Haka and us at HVERI. We're going to be doing outdoor, hands-on things for the kids to play with and maybe learn something in the process. So it's going to be a cool day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even if you guys are just visitors here for the week to watch an episode of an Eruption, please come by, say hi, check out how we do things here, get a little bit more knowledge and understanding of what it's like for us to live here and what we have to go through, because we are in a disaster environment and we pretty much cover them all here. So
there's one other, they're bringing your favorite thing back, the burn pin. Oh yes, you can learn how to use a fire extinguisher and put out a real fire.
I love that. Yes. First time I saw that was last June at the preparedness fair in Hilo. Oh, I love that thing. So if you guys are here, you got to come check that out.
Yep. All right,
let's keep rolling here. If you are interested in being notified when the next episode is happening, there is our email for the volcano eruption notification. You can also sign up for our regular mailing list and get information on what we're up to, just like the Pohiki webcam, the science nights that we do for our youth development program, the digital resilience programs that we do, and the education we do for the resilience hubs here, as well as, the volcano education that you catch up on Thursday nights. So we have a lot that we do within our 501c3 community-based organization. So if you're interested and would like to know more, sign up for our newsletter, sign up for our mail list. Take us, Dane.
Yeah, so want to thank everybody that tuned in today, but first we'll thank the Puna Strong, the Kīlauea Recovery Grant, as well as the Vai Grant Program, as well as Hawaii Community Foundation. All these through Hawaii County. It helps provide funding for this, our volcano education, but also our digital resilience and youth development programs. But we do want to shout out everybody that likes, subscribes, shares all the stuff that we do. Every little bit helps. And if you are so inclined, we do take donations, take super chats, but we also take the donations over at hveri.org/donate. And since we are a 501c3, these are tax deductible when it comes April and the tax man comes around.
And we do have some super chats in there. I'm putting one in right now from our donation platform, hveri.org.
All right.
And
so we have Mark. $10 returning supporter there, Norm. Appreciate the support. And they're talking about back when Chain of Craters, the road that connected the bottom of the national park to Kalapana, and being able to drive that. And that was before my time. I did go out there, didn't cross the entire thing after they redid it in 2018, just to make it super rough, right? Just to make it a potential way out in case we were completely locked out. And what was the other one?
Mark over on our donation platform. I just put it in the chat there. $50. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I just don't see that one, but thank you. All right. How do you want to do questions real quick?
I just have one up here. You got it. They kind of talked about this in the chat a little bit, but we can talk about it as well because it's something we just had up here with our bucket. How long, let's see here. How long do you guys figure a liter of that fresh tephra takes to cool? It's pretty.
It's very fast.
Yeah.
Usually.
They're not dense. They're not heavy. They're super light. They're cooling down pretty quick. But you can see it had to fly from the fountain several hundred feet, right, to the bucket. Right. And it's still
the one I liked was 2018, one of the vents. It was, throwing the spatter out, and it was landing in the trees, and it was hot enough
to hit the branch and then melt down it, but not so hot that it like lit the tree immediately on fire and burnt through the wood or anything like that. So it was still hot, but cooled relatively quickly and preserved these almost Christmas ornaments. It's the tree. I'm pretty sure it killed the tree though.
Probably. Yeah. That kind of falls in the same line with the lava. And back down in Leilani, when one of the last times I was down there hiking out with that school trip out there, there's catchments on the ground where the lava, as it hits it, cools so fast that the catchment it's still there. The lava just went around it as it cooled. So,
but when they're asking how much of the layer of that.
Yeah, I got
you. So, the layers really though it depends how much. Right? A thin sheet cools relatively quickly. You start building sheets on top of sheets, whatever heat that was there gets covered with another sheet and then gets insulated. And then that's how you can get those tephra balls that fall off of the caldera top down into the crater itself. And things along those lines, is it is able to insulate itself when it accumulates. The more tephra there is, the longer it'll stay hot. All right,
let's get into our recap.
Yeah, let's do that. So we do have it. I just was going to show real quick. Oh, we got just the live view up there, and really not a lot has changed since we first came on the air. Don't see much in the spatter, and really it's easier to tell at night, as we've seen the little chunks that get thrown out that are still hot. They are much more identifiable at night than they are during the day. But we will keep an eye on that in case something changes. But we do want to go through our presentation here on the first 13 episodes. So this data that you're looking at here is pulled from the USGS eruption summary. And in it has this table of all the episodes and their particulars about it. So then we'll see just how it progresses. So this is the episode of not big fountains, right? We're still pre-1,000-foot fountains throughout all of these episodes. So we will be building up, though. And we also have longer durations in the beginning, too.
Yeah. And we had more of the caldera being filled as well.
Right. So approximate volume, 9 million cubic meters. And we are, whoops.
Which way are we going there?
In the wrong hotkeys. We do have some videos. We're going to be showing a lot of videos of the fountaining. So here's that initial start of the eruption, right? So it's pitch black. And we have the fissure. I don't know if you remember that, the fissure that started this whole thing. Now we think of it as those two very developed eruptive vents, but back in the beginning, oh no. Yeah, but we do see that location being chosen, essentially. And just
we flashed back to lava. We kind of flashed back to September 2023 with that fissure that came across on the other end of the caldera.
True, right?
We thought we were starting off again like that.
Right. It seemed like we were in the beginning points of this. We had no indication that it was going to begin this episodic, eruptive, and especially the 1,000-foot fountains, right? Yeah. This is completely in line with the activity, the summit eruptions, the over half dozen summit eruptions we've had since 2018. And then it just continued from there. So we're looking at the map of that first episode provided by USGS, and we're seeing here the lava thickness begins at 10 feet. So that first episode, roughly 10-foot lava thickness across the 650 acres, only not being able to cover those eruptive vents from September 2023. And this will change rather quickly. Episode 2. right? So this one picks up. We're not nearly close to that weekly cycle yet. This is only the next day, right?
Yeah.
And it lasts for 27 episodes. It's trying to figure out what it wants to do here, but we still have a decent amount of lava, half as much as before. We're starting to see some height on the fountains as well. We have some footage from the USGS. This is one of those areas that is closed to the public. And zoom in at those eruptive vents, the early stages. So we don't have the pronounced cones. We don't have the giant hillside. Really simple stuff happening at this point, right? And we still don't think that it's going to be doing this episodic stuff.
Nope, that was
More like we're thinking of it as a single episode at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can see not as much lava though. We've covered everything almost the day prior. Now we're a little less than half. And here's a annotated aerial view that USGS provided. You can see there we do not have the tephra deposits that we will soon. We have this vent down here on the bottom. Kenekekoi is the right below this screen. This indication is where the public viewing area would be. And previous lava flows from 1921, 1974, and 1982. So it really, erupting outside the vent is even common in this area, right? But we have been confined this entire eruption to basically the same spot that you see here.
And we have not moved.
Episode 3. So we're still only a few days into this thing, right? We're not very far after the 23rd. And we do have a long pause after this one of 12 days.
Yep. But we went 8.5 days on this one. This was a week into it. We're going, whoa.
But a large amount of volume is erupted during this episode, 13 million cubic meters. And let's take a look at that.
This is when we were also seeing the full caldera drain back happening.
Oh, we have one of the rock falls here.
That snuck in there, didn't it?
Where is this?
I don't know. How'd that get in there?
I do not know.
Bonus. Hey, everybody, get a bonus clip.
Yeah, this should be in a way later episode.
Yeah. You just saw the future.
Right.
Dane, you just took us into the future.
Let me see if I can find something real quick from episode 3.
Yeah, so the episodes 1, 2 is when we still had the F1 cam and we were all glued in on the drain back that was happening. It was fantastic to really watch. It was mesmerizing to watch the entire caldera fill with lava and then just suck back into the earth and then head back, flow again, and right back into the earth. It was quite an amazing process to watch, and we're still getting it today with all the way up into episode 25. We're just getting it in a different version within the vent. It's still pretty amazing to watch.
Right. So let me see if I can bring it over here and get a video in place for you.
All right, there you go.
Since that was off. Are we able to see this one?
There you go. Yep. December. I didn't see the date up there.
Oh, man. I lost StreamYard. All right, let's run this.
December 26th. Yep. And we started to see here in this episode, the vents got a lot tighter. Everything is in that same close proximity that we watched over the next 15 episodes until just the last couple where it started to really, south vent and north vent started spreading out a little bit.
Right. but not at this point. Knowing what we know now, this was such a cool eruption at the time,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we're gonna get spoiled very quickly.
Mhm. We had no idea what was coming.
All right, so that was episode 3, and there we go. So we do get a new map at that point in time, and we can see that the feet is now up to 40 feet average thickness across this eruption so far. So it's picking up in terms of that depth. There we go. And that brings us to episode 4. So now that whole sequence with the 8 days followed by the 12-day pause, it almost felt like, eruption over. But looking at the signals from underground, we were starting to see that reinflation cycle starting to begin. And here we get a rather quick return following that longer pause. So let's look at episode 4 here, but that 6.5 million cubic meters, not about midway, maybe on the lower end, with a approximately 100-meter tall fountain. And we can see the cones starting to develop around those eruptive vents. With how much material is getting put out, you would expect them to be forming. And we have the two vents are now clearly identifiable, right? And the north vent and south vent. We will see one vent be more active sometimes, other vent be more active at others. But in this beginning phase, it felt like both vents were basically the same. Maybe that helps indicate some of the more intricate underground structure that happens over the course of this eruption. So relatively small fountains still. I believe that's
compared to what's coming. They're still pretty big, right?
These were really cool at the time. I mean, they fit right in line with a lot of the activity we've seen up until this point for the previous several years. And this was a great map because we start to see this is the only cross section that we're going to have to look at. But we can see the collapse depth after 2018 at the bottom there down to 500 meters elevation. Then the water lake that filled in about 80 meters deep. So it was a decent sized lake, but then that quickly got evaporated and the eruptions filled up rather quickly in the small bowl until we get to 2023. We have a depth of we've picked up 400 meters in elevation since 2018 in the bottom of the pit. And then we slowly pick up another 40 meters or 22 meters since then. So pretty cool. And it gets a lot bigger, the amount of volume that it needs to fill in to raise any more. And we still think, I'm still hearing roughly a third, maybe a little over now, of the volume that was released in the 2018 eruption has been restored or returned into the system. So still a little bit of ways to go on that. And everything's still confined, but you start to see that the extent of the September 2023 flows being chipped away more and more. Episode 5, you want to talk on this one? It was a little baby.
Yeah, this one here was just this was the time we all started saying this is probably going to be about it, because there wasn't much in lava. I know the duration was 14 hours, but it didn't have it, right? Everything was small. This was a fast one.
Yeah, and even the 14 hours feels generous at times. It was not a strong episode.
Well, and because we were also discussing about that time is when are they starting the clock for when an episode begins?
Right. We did have some good fountains, though, like some health to it, but they were brief over that 14 hours
Yep.
with that volume.
Yeah, it wasn't 14 hours of continuous fountaining.
All right. Yeah, no 14 hours continuous. Wind up and then let down period. But we do have this photo of USGS. They're out there throughout all these episodes trying
Sure,
to...
that's not you.
It almost looks like Katie.
Katie. Looks like Katie, doesn't it?
But yeah, the USGS out there, and they're, you know, keeping up and putting out images, putting out videos, doing drone flights to map the extent of it. And that's how the maps that we're coming up with is through drone flights, but they are also out there on the ground collecting tephra, taking, you know, all angles at this thing. And this is before we realized just how much of a marathon we were about to get. It was almost like, well, let's go out there and finish strong at this point.
Right.
And then episode 6, only 2 days later, right? So we're weekly pattern is not even close to being established. And it's, again, another small little 1 million, tiny little 1 million cubic meter eruption.
Yeah, right.
But not small, I mean, not large fountains either in this one. Believe we have some footage of that. Oh, this one was weird because it was, the fountains were really quick at night. So I'm going to have to just repeat this one a couple times. And it was at a very awkward hour. And there wasn't really, it was so quick and such an awkward hour that I didn't get, nobody really had any good video of it. So thankfully we have all these USGS cameras and the footage from those cams and be able to fill us in at all the awkward hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, really quick eruption, not much of an extent of a lava flow, but you know, all of that contributes to the cone building. And the USGS, as we're talking about, we're flying, and that was one of the questions we had about this point is, we see glow at night. What's down in that vent? They were curious too. They did do an overflight, and we could start to see that magma is very close to the surface. Even during the pauses and periods with nothing's happening, it's just right there. That's part of this whole thing where we say the eruption's ongoing. It's just the episodes are when it's fountaining and doing things at the surface, but there's so much activity that it's always erupting since December 23rd.
Right.
Sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't, and sometimes it's 1,000 foot in the air.
Yep. But it's there.
But it's there, just below the surface. And that's the state we're in now, is with lava just below the surface, waiting to see what the next episode 26, would entail. But looking at episode 7.
Yeah, this is the ones we went up to.
You want to talk about it then?
Yeah, jump in there. This is actually a heavy VOG night when we went up there. Anna,
a little more volume, not like the big ones. Sorry, and then less than 100 feet. All right, and I'll roll the footage. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this was a VOGgy night up there. I was actually in the Devastation Trail parking lot. Anna hiked out to Keonekekoi, and on the drive up there was a lot of VOG out there. Always spectacular when you can be out there filming it compared to just catching it off of a webcam. But the fountains were, what was our max height on this one? 75? 100 feet? Yeah.
100 meters.
100 meters. And you can see the south vent wasn't even really kicking when we were up there.
We start to see that where it picks one or the other, or sometimes both, but it's not just consistent between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuck in the truck. That's when I had a great experience of life in a parking lot up there at the park.
Well, talk about this clip a little bit.
Yeah, this is Matthew Wall's shot. He had posted up on YouTube and on our Discord, and he has some great time lapses from up on top of Mauna Kea. So this is a great shot. Did a great job with this one. So thank you, Matthew.
see how that tall that plume is that gets up
Yeah.
there, and it gets any taller, and then you get into the upper jet streams, and it starts, going different directions on you even. But really interesting, just to watch this giant plume just dance across the sky, essentially.
And it just tells you there's a lot of fog floating around, and most times it heads to Kau and Ocean View, Captain Cook, and around that way. But it does creep down. Some of these episodes have crept down the eastern slope when the hilo, depending on our winds. This one's a good example of give you an idea of what's actually up there.
And in case you're wondering, that light, what in the bottom left there would be hilo, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, some cool footage there. And that brings us to episode 8. And now we're starting to get towards that. Not, maybe not this episode, but after this episode, we start to see that pattern start to emerge that we're going to get all too familiar with over the coming weeks and months. So 22-hour duration, a little on the long side, but it has then a 6-day pause, and those fountain heights are now climbing, and the volume is also starting to pick up again.
We also started seeing the pattern at this point where we saw the tilt immediately kicking back up as soon as an episode ended.
Right.
Everything started becoming a little clearer about this point.
About where this eruption was going.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see those awkward hours early in the morning, late at night when the eruption starts. And back then, the eruption it didn't have much precursor activity, in terms of filling up and then draining back and then sputtering, and then the fountains would build. These were still more like many of the episodes that we'd gotten used to, where they start out very high fountain with the tallest part of the fountains, and then they finish over time.
The floor level also changed the lava flowing from going around the eastern part of the floor over to where it melted the B1 cam to the western side of the caldera. If you saw that in that time lapse right there.
And you also have the flows that are accumulating in there that are changing all the topography, but you also have the inflation of the itself that's inflating, deflating, changing where the next flow might go, or impacting where it might go.
Yeah.
Pretty cool there. We have one more. This was some footage provided by USGS. They flew down, and during the episode, to be able to take some samples, and in doing so, captured some of this footage you're looking at here. So if you're wondering what it looks like from the ground there, really there's that big bulge that's blocking most of the vent and that topography that we're just talking about.
Yep. What was the date on this one? This was 8. So this was February 3rd. So the one before, they didn't have any video that I could find on it where they collected samples down there, because that's another question everybody asks. What are they doing down there? Well, they're collecting samples. And during Volcano Awareness Month that we covered, we were down at the geology department at U of H, and they actually had a sample that they had collected that day. So kind of holding the youngest rock on the planet, maybe. It's kind of cool.
Right. So moving forward, we do get a new map, and now the maximum thickness is 108 feet or 33 meters. So slowly gaining more elevation and slowly covering more of that September 2023 flow. But these latest flows really haven't extended as far as some of those earlier episodes. Oh, and we do have the fog cloud, the giant plume getting blown out to sea with the dominant trade winds in play at this point. So, but still also swirling back around in that upper jet stream and then making its way all the way to LA. So we contributed to the the VOG in LA. It's mostly smog, but hey, a little VOG in there too.
Potato.
So yeah, we did have in this period, we had some very bad winds. You remember?
That's right.
Those early episodes where we'd have southerly winds, and then we'd have tephra fallout in Volcano Village, as well as closures of the certain sections of the national park. That might be a few episodes from now, but yeah, we were starting to see some non-typical impacts.
We were in that Kona low season for us, where the winds come up from the south.
Right.
Yeah.
And that made it very boggy in Hilo, Kona, around the island. And that brings us to episode 9, which is now we're right in the pattern, right? 7 days. And
Sundays.
I think we're locking in on Tuesday at this point.
We're
starting to get the Tuesday patterns. And so we're at February 11th, and at this point the fountains are still growing, right? And we're now at 150 meters, 5.2 million cubic meters of volume outputted. So let's see the bigger fountain now. Some footage provided from USGS, both vents active at this point. That well-defined structure of the cone being developed, as well as the standing pond inside of the vent itself that we've seen fill up and drain back and fill up. We can see it's getting blasted out, but how it accumulates, and then as soon as the episode ends, whatever's there drains back into its hole and start inflating for the next one. So yeah, some amazing footage out of this whole episode, each episode.
I think we still have the F1 cam at this point as well. I don't think we've lost it yet.
Yeah, it's not down yet, and we haven't cooked the B2 camera yet.
Right.
It hasn't been done. Well done. Left in the oven too long.
Yeah.
That's one we should have thrown in.
We could have, yeah.
Skip forward a little bit. There was something, I believe, at the end of this one I really wanted to show. Might be the scene after this. Oh, yeah. I did want to just talk about the waves coming out of there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a surge or a pulse or anything like that. It's just, seems like the variation of, and how it just flows out of there. But it did almost remind me of some of the pulses that we have seen previously on Kīlauea. And that huge ramparts that these previous episodes, as well as this one. And that south vent really is getting outpaced by that north vent at this point in the whole series.
For now.
And just a time lapse of that episode 9 from the B2 cam. Oh, is this it? Is this it?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I put this in there. This wasn't it.
It might not even be yet. It might actually not.
No, it might. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what episode that was.
I think it is actually after 14, or that it happened.
I'm sure we would have talked about it while we were doing this.
Right.
So
now, episode 10. We are 5 days after this one. That pause, 150 meter tall fountains, but a smaller eruption overall. Only 2.5 million cubic meters, and lasting about a half a day. And we're going to see the windows get shorter and shorter. But let's take a look at the fountains of this episode. And again, this one started at roughly 10 p.m. at night, and had that fountain kick off, carried through the beginning of the morning before quickly shutting off. Show that again here. And those lava flows really aren't making it even anywhere close to the other end of the caldera like we saw at the beginning. Got one more here from your favorite little thermal
There
camera.
it is. Yes.
And filling out there. It does get some reach to it, right? But it's got a ways to go to get all the way across. And the last little bit there, I do want to show again and see if I can freeze frame it. Nope.
Almost.
Okay. There. In the far back, you can see some fresh stuff pop up. And we were seeing these ooze out flows throughout these early episodes where lava wouldn't be anywhere close to it at the surface, but underneath the surface, there's ways in which it could not just influence the entire lava lake, but also pop out and put down a small little patch of lava on the opposite side of the eruptive vents even.
Yep.
A lot of weight being added to that one side.
A lot of weight.
These episodes. So might have some influence in the whole dynamic as well. We have seen before how gravity and the accumulation of weight can create some very interesting dynamics on Kīlauea, particularly at the summit.
Yep.
So episode 11, we are now into late February, and we still are now on that about weekly pace, 150 meter tall with 4 million cubic meters of output and a half-day eruption again. Take a look at the fountains from this one and that early onset, and you can see almost like it's going to get big. It almost builds like the episodes that we're getting used to, but then it backs off and is really another rather quick episode. Where the fountaining phase doesn't really last as long as the episode.
And like that one there too is a good example, as both the north and the south vent taken off at the same time. One doesn't really have the pressure it needs to get up there. They were just competing with each other so much. That's Phil's shot when he went up there.
Yeah, this is Phil's footage from when he was up there, and he had some really dramatic footage and some great, footage of the lava lake or the fountains and the ramparts, and as well as the other areas around the base of the fissures that we've seen repeatedly put out little lava flows or have bubbles burst out of them, or flank activity almost to the cinder cone. You want to skip forward in this, I believe. All that spatter around, you can see how quickly it can accumulate with that much amount of material being deposited up there. And with each fountain, the fountains get taller as the cinder cone gets taller. So it's got plenty of fresh material. In 2018, we saw the cone build very quickly, but then the fountains weren't able to get over the edge of the cone after a certain point, and then the fountains got smaller after that, so they never would get out of it again. We have the opposite of that happening here. The fountains keep getting bigger as the cone gets bigger. So if you get up there right at the right time, you can get some spectacular views, as Phil's demonstrating here.
Yep. Well, I think I saw somebody in the chats up in the Devastation parking lot right now waiting.
Yeah.
Hope you brought some snacks.
Yeah, I hope you brought snacks. And enough water.
Yeah.
And there's episode 11.
That's such a classic shot for us here. The red glowing sky. All of us that live here. I mean, going back and forth between eruptions all these years. I mean, we see that so often. It's a great shot.
Yeah. And that brings us to episode 12. And then bringing us into March, early March. Fountains are still picking up. 175 meters. 4.4 million cubic meters of volume erupted. And it's a longer episode at 27 hours, right? We were seeing half-day episodes, but this one lingered. Take a look at it.
Oh, the last days of the KW cam here.
Added to the long list of equipment lost by USGS HVO to lava or a giant pit.
Yes, our fallen soldiers.
Yeah, sometimes they actually are fallen thousands of feet down.
Yes.
And we do get another map. USGS at this point. We are up to 128 feet or 39 meters of lava deposited over this eruption. The extent, we were in the high 600s. We're now in the 725, just showing how it has to deposit more and more material to get up any more elevation. And we have had 13 billion gallons of total volume deposited and chipping away at that September flow. And those cinder cones there, you can start to see it even getting to the eruptive vent and fill in that as well. The time lapse is returned.
There it is.
The thermal. We miss you, F1 thermal camera.
It's coming back.
You can see all those little lava flows happening down at the other end, and does it look like it makes it across the surface over there. So good amount of volume, really quick though, in terms of where the volume was, the height of the episode, and then takes a while to end, so to speak. And finally, for today, the last one we'll be covering is episode 13, where we have that 8-day pause following it and 13-hour eruption. But now, look, we're first episode over 200 meters fountains, and we're starting to pick up the volume too. Yeah, it's starting to get in more and more impressive each time.
This is when it started getting exciting right here.
Right, and still a rather quick episode. Show that again. And those, you got to get the timing right to get up there at the right time for that fountain.
Yeah.
Like, it is hard. It is rough. The people up there, that stay up there, trying to count the hours until it comes off. It's always a game. And do you get the timing right, or do you just miss it?
And it's not just the cold or the wind. Like, you look at the KW there, it's the rain. Yeah,
right.
And then
I will say this: at this point, if you are looking to go up there, I would be really looking for obviously you want the tilt to be built up, but I'd be looking for that precursor activity, the spatter, the glow, even it's starting to try and build up and then retreat. That's really the cue that it's coming. In terms of it's time for me to drive up there type of thing. At least that we've seen most recently.
Yep. Otherwise, unless it's 2:00 in the morning, you're battling to get through the park.
And boom, with that, we are now covering those September flows. So good amount of volume put out on this one, and it was so vigorous in its height that it was able to cover additional sections, reach all the way around to the other side, and get more stuff covered.
Yeah.
And we do have the return of the F1 camera.
Oh, yes.
One last time.
Yeah.
We might have a few more of those before it gets claimed.
Maybe.
I think B1 goes. Which one was it?
F1. I think F1 went first.
F1 went first, and then the B1 got melted.
Yeah. And KW is coming up in 15, I think. That's when we had the taller fountains. That's when everything went that's when the fountains just got extremely high right off the top on us. So there's a lot of good episodes coming up.
Yeah, so that gets us through their first part of this whole summary that we have set up to go today. Let's go ahead and see about what the volcano is doing currently up
Hey,
there.
you put up end. I saw you just put up end part 1. You should match. We should have matched that with what the volcano does. It's just intermission until the next episode.
Oh yeah, we're paused for 1 week. That's the correct Kīlauea terminology,
right? We got to go with the flow here.
But the flow definitely not going right now up there.
No, blue though. Look at that. Is that blue or is it just me?
You got the golden hour happening up there right now.
Got the lens flare going on.
Weird stuff with the lighting. But
yeah, that's the lens flare on the right side.
Soon transition to the nighttime, and then you'll be able to really keep track of. It's so much easier to see at night. The stuff getting thrown out of the vent, and we will be watching tonight, and we will, if you are so inclined, if you want to know exactly when the eruption is, the fountaining is beginning, we do have our email that our subscriber list, and you can go over to hveri.org/subscribe, sign up for the eruption notifications, and then we will send you that early invite or that early email to let you know it is now time to go up there, and if hopefully it's not rush hour and you'll be able to make it up there. But with how long these episodes are lasting, you have 6-7 hours
if you're lucky. Yeah.
But if you do leave right away upon getting that notification, it's a high chance that you're going to get in there and be able to see something as good as you can get without camping out there and becoming a mini volcanologist in terms of reading the signs of.
Yep.
And there are people that do that and they get it right up there. I know Yvonne does it, and there's plenty of other people up there that are on the White Tracker Facebook group that
I'm dropping that link in the chat right now for everybody, as a matter of fact.
Stay up there during the days, and they share their footage with us so generously. Some really talented photographers, videographers, guys with cell phones, guys and gals just shooting vertical videos with a shaky hand. It doesn't matter.
Don't matter.
We like to look at it all.
That's right. There's our link right there.
The White Tracker is a spot that if you want to share, we encourage you to join us. And we're now over 167,000 members on White Tracker, and come a long way from the 2018 eruption over there. But these views, definitely plenty to share out there.
Absolutely.
Well,
I do have a couple more donations to throw out there real quick. We have a $5 super chat from Don Stringer for pepperoni for tomorrow's pizza for Friday Fountain. Thank you, Don. And Mr. Skagit Ed, longtime supporter. Bonus for Carrie and Dano. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
And that I think gets us to the end. We do stream every Thursday at 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, unless something out of the normal happens, and these episodes do not count in terms of us going live. If we're to get into one of the rift zones or Mauna Loa or a big earthquake or something happens, we'll go live. But otherwise, 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, we will return and go over part 2 next time of the ongoing episodic eruptions, expecting to have episode 26 in the books well before then. We always like to bet on things. If I was betting, I'm betting tomorrow afternoon, evening into we'll say 8 p.m.
You just don't want to say 4 o'clock, do you? Just don't want to give me 4 o'clock.
You can call 4 p.m. tomorrow. There you go. I already know what you're going with. But we will see how it goes, and maybe lose 4 p.m. theory has.
It's actually 5 this time of year. Summer's 5.
It abides by daylight savings time.
Yes.
That's convenient.
Absolutely. How convenient.
All right. Well, good stuff. And thanks, Carrie and Dano, our ASL team, for joining us again. In case you missed it, Phil will be returning in a couple of weeks. And you will be dealing with Lou and I until then. And we expect just more of the similar episodes that we've been seeing. And eventually this episodic eruption will end, but I don't think we're really that close to that point right now. We shall see, though. And that is for Phil and everybody, to talk about, when he gets back, as one of the conversations. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We are now at an hour and a half, so we did hit our goal, Lou.
Yes, we did.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next week. Aloha.